All right, folks, welcome to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1 AM 1170. All right.
My mic's not on. The answer.
There it is. Rookie in
That's
the
how you know
house.
it's live.
I know. What are you going to do? Hey, did you know Americans stop or prevent violent crime 1 to 3 million times per year with a gun? That's right. Studies from Florida State, the CDC, and the Crime Prevention Research Center shows that guns are used to protect life 25 times more often than when they are used to take a life. 25 times. And the estimate is on the low side. And if you believe the good people deserve the best tools to defend themselves and their family, then you should be a member of San Diego County Gun Owners. San Diego County Gun Owners makes it easy to connect with the community that fights to defend and restore your Second Amendment rights. Be a member today. It's $10 a month. Come on, you can't buy breakfast for that. stcgo.org, stcgo.org/join to become a member.
Join today, everybody.
Yes, or tomorrow.
Or tomorrow. No, join today.
By the way, happy Father's Day.
I was going to say happy Father's Day.
And you got the big dog in the house.
I did. It's like show and tell on Father's Day for me. This is my father, everybody. Henry Schwartz.
Get up close to that guy right there. How you doing, sir?
Well, it's a great pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. It seems like we all know you because we talk about you and your grandson.
Yeah.
Well, I have sent in a couple of questions, when they stop my nephew.
Oh, hold on one second.
Hold on a second.
Let's talk. Okay. Change mic.
Change mic.
All right, there you go, Dad.
Okay.
Happy Father's Day.
Well, one of the things that when we talk to Sam, he says it all the time. Well, this is where he gets his intelligence.
Well, thanks, Sam.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, am I right? Do you not say that?
My sister and I talk all the time how they're almost the same person.
And
Very
he
similar.
has said, and I'm just gloating on you because he would never tell you this, but he said you are by far the smartest individual he's ever met. I'm serious. So that's good.
That's good. I'll take that on Father's Day.
I would take that on Father's Day too, and make sure he takes you to Mexican food.
No, it's not Mexican. Tell them where we're going.
Where you going?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Oh, there you go.
That's a once in a decade.
Right.
At least.
How about that?
I know. He'll probably have to sell the spare tire off the
yeah.
Jeep. By the way, did you get the Jeep back?
Not yet.
Oh,
Not yet.
What are you?
We're driving around in the BMW. We were driving around in class.
Oh, now you're in a Beamer?
Yeah, it's a borrowed Beamer, but it's a Beamer.
What?
And not only is it Father's Day, but it was my dad's birthday, his 82nd birthday. A couple of
Wow.
2 days ago.
You look great for 82.
Well, thank you.
So show him what you got there, Dad.
That is just.
Everybody knows.
I know.
We've talked about it on air. I am now addicted to watches.
He is.
So Dad got Dad is for those who don't know was a professional diver in the Navy. He did a bunch of diving research in the 80s and is no short of a world-renowned scientist when it comes to undersea medicine. Right? Is that
Way short. But thank you.
no? He's being on.
Well,
Jake is on the phone.
so you'll appreciate this story. When I was an Explorer Scout, this was 1961, 62, I lived in Vallejo, California, where Mare Island Naval Shipyard was. And we had the UDT divers come and teach us how to scuba dive. And this was before the double hose and all that kind of stuff. And that was before you didn't even have to have a license to scuba dive. So, yeah, I've always loved the ocean.
When Dave was doing it, you just had some sheep intestine. You filled it up with air and then hope for the best. So I got it. So this is a watch by Ball watches, which are American-made, now bought by Swiss. And this is the best dive watch, I would say, on the market today.
Yeah.
And
How come you don't have one?
Well, because
Because
we can only
I got it.
Yeah, you got it. You can only afford one of these in the family. So I have a citizen.
You get a Timex.
on today.
That's
No,
a
it's a
Timex.
citizen.
That's a Timex.
dare
Don't
you.
let anybody kid
How
you.
dare you? Takes a licking and
Keeps on ticking.
there you go. All right, on the show. So we're going to talk to my dad. He's going to weigh in. Dad, if you need to say anything, you just raise-
put your finger up. That
raise
way
your
I'll know
finger
to
and-
shut him up because
there
he
you
goes
go.
like a. Wait, who'd you say was on the line?
Jake.
Jake's coming in. He's in the first segment.
Okay.
So Jake from Walk the Talk America is going to be in our next segment. We're going to talk to him on exactly what Walk the Talk is. We're going to talk about Mara Elliot.
Oh, your friend.
My friend, the city attorney down in San Diego, and what a great friend she is to the Second Amendment.
Well, you got rid of Nathan.
Yeah.
So is this the next one you're working on?
Truly, everybody listening, all your ire and disappointment and excitement over Nathan. Let's replace all that. Let's redirect it to Mara Elliott, who's just as bad.
Truly deserves it.
Truly deserves it. We're going to talk about Newsom's 28th Amendment, which is pretty comical. We're going to talk about gun prom. We have the monthly meetings coming up. Is it this week? I think it's this week. I'll double check on that. Joe Germisi, our buddy from the show, he's going to talk about situational awareness and pepper spray.
Is he calling in?
He's not calling in. He's actually coming to the meetings. So
all three. I thought it was coming in today.
All three of our monthly meetings. See, the North County one's in Fallbrook, and then we'll get all the information. The South County one's down in
South County.
Yeah, down in South County. The Central one's
in Central County.
Anyway, Joe Trapeze is going to be there. We'll give you all the information.
Well, that's a good excuse to go to the website because it'll say all the addresses.
Yep. San Diego County Gunowners.com. Go to the website and check it out.
Yeah.
But it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. Pick a meeting that's close to you. Come on down. Come on down. Come on down. And then bridging the gap between mental health and responsible firearm ownership. That's what Jake's going to be talking about, which I think is a really important subject. You know, we talk about firearms a lot, and we talk about how we have to be responsible, and firearms are, of course, for sane, trained, law-abiding gun owners. And that sane part is kind of a broad term, and I think it's really difficult. You know, when somebody's going through or showing symptoms of a mental health crisis, you know, what do you do? I think it's our responsibility as a gun community to get that figured out. So we're going to talk to Jake and talk about exactly what Walk the Talk America does when it comes to mental health and responsible firearms ownership, which should be really, really pretty interesting. So Dad, what do you think? Have you ever been on a radio show before, by the way?
I have not.
This is the first time?
This is the first.
There you go. It's a bucket list item then.
Yes.
But I know you listen.
Well, you're never too young.
I listen, and I get it on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
But everybody, he really the segment he listens to is the last segment because that's his grandson.
Yeah. Well,
I don't blame him.
there you go.
I
Here's
don't
your
blame
segment.
him. It's our best segment. Truth be told.
Well, radio is to us it's fun. I
2
do
minutes.
6 hours, and he does 2.
There you go.
He could do 6. That would not even be an issue.
You think so?
So you're out here for a while, huh?
I was at a meeting of the Undersea and Hyperbaric Medical Society for the last 3 days. It's our annual scientific meeting.
Wow.
And what came up today? You were telling me.
One of the talks was about the active shooter, and a great description of various kinds of firearms and what you do and so forth and so on in a hyperbaric facility where the bad guy comes in and and what do you do?
Yeah. What'd you think of that guy that was underwater for 100 days? You see that guy?
Who?
There was a doctor who's been he was underwater in a sphere for 100 days. He broke the record.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Lost an inch in height.
Jeez.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, but
Why would somebody lose an inch in height if they were?
Don't know.
I don't know, but all his meds were much better when he went coming out than went in. Yeah.
Well, one of the things they did was they actually had some old hyperbaric chambers that they shot, out in the desert just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And they had several different kind of firearms that they used. Some of them penetrated, some didn't.
Some did. Do you shoot yourself?
I do.
Oh, okay.
You just renewed your CCW,
Just
right?
last Saturday, a week ago, renewed my CCW.
Great.
In fact, we got to go to a break, but I want to talk. That's one of the things I want to talk about is what he has to go through to get a CCW, this is for Wisconsin. Yeah, it's kind of silly.
You go down and you hand him a check.
No, it's not a good story.
It's not a good story.
It's not a good story.
Hey, if you own a gun in California, you should have an attorney that specializes in California gun laws on your speed dial, because if you ever have legal matters that involve firearms, you need California firearm lawyer John Dillon, especially if you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe just need to know that your guns are California compliant. Our trusted firearms attorney is John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Put his number on your phone right now, 760-642-7150. John Dillon, California firearms lawyer, 760-642-7150. Oh, sorry about that.
All right, bridging the gap between mental health and responsible firearms ownership. We're going to talk to a representative from Walk the Talk America. Jake, are you there?
I sure am, gentlemen.
How you doing, man?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for coming on.
I'm good. Happy Father's Day. It's exciting where I am because my two boys are not with me. They're with their mother in South Dakota visiting their grandmother, but I got to play golf with my own dad today. So
nice.
Well,
that sounds like a great Father's Day. Congratulations. Happy Father's Day. My father's in the studio with us today.
yeah, I heard that. That's awesome.
Yeah, right. I think this is the first time we've spent Father's Day together in
a while,
a long time.
Like 20, maybe 30 years. Yeah, it's a long time.
Wow.
Probably.
So here we go. Okay, so Jake, let's talk about, first off, what is Walk the Talk America?
Walk the Talk America is a nonprofit. It's 501c3, and we are originated from the gun industry, founded by a guy named Michael Sodini, whose family imported firearms from across the world into the U.S. for multiple generations. And he sold off his part of the company to focus on this endeavor full-time a couple of years back. And the idea was, at its core, to prevent suicide firearm by bridging the gap between mental health and firearms ownership and joining the two cultures. So I am a marriage and family therapist by trade. I practice in Nevada where I'm licensed, and I own and operate a company called Zephyr Wellness. We do outpatient counseling. And I met Mike because I host a podcast called Noggin Notes. And back in 2019, I learned about the organization, reached out to him, and I said, man, this is a really cool concept because I'm a gun-owning clinician, and there aren't too many of us out there. Why don't you come on my show? So he came on my show. We talked for a little while. We met and became BFFs, and I realized I had a role to play. So since then, I've been involved in the organization. So I'm the mental health of the guns and mental health, basically.
Wow. So being a gun-owning clinician, does that make you a minority, or is that common, or what is your experience?
Social pariah among my peer colleagues is probably the best way to describe it. It's not that bad, but there are people in my professional community who look askance upon firearms and, by extension, firearms owners. And so they, as much as we like to brag about being non-judgmental and so forth, we really do tend to become pretty rigid in our beliefs. And some of those beliefs are that guns are bad and guns should go away. And we remain ignorant of gun culture. So part of what Walk the Talk does is we offer continuing education courses for physicians and mental health practitioners to learn about what it means to be a gun owner so that we don't chase people away with our own ignorance of the community when somebody comes in looking for help. And then the flip side of that coin is to demystify what the counseling process is for firearms owners so that they're not scared to come in thinking that they're going to lose their rights.
Yeah, that is huge. I would imagine, though, we're talking very broadly about the medical health or medical community in general. I would imagine it's very different depending on where you are in the medical field. I would imagine that mental health folks probably have had bad experiences with patients, and therefore it's led them to kind of a one-sided view. Whereas other people in the medical field probably have a very positive view. It just probably depends very, very heavily on what their personal experience is.
Yeah, I think so. What we're trying to do, obviously, is empower our people with licenses who treat folks to be more culturally aware and competent. And I know cultural awareness is sort of a DEI buzzword these days, but really that's what the gun community is. It's a culture, and we need to educate our folks to be competent and comfortable having a conversation when a firearms owner comes in and say maybe they're not in crisis, right? Maybe they're not suicidal. And even though we center on suicide, that's not what brings people into care. What brings them into care is a whole bunch of things. And sometimes it's not even about you, it's about your child. So if you, through the course of the conversation, maybe this parent of this kid who's struggling says, yeah, we love to go out and shoot in the desert or whatever, because I live in Nevada and we shoot in the desert. And then the clinician gets all skittish and weird because they don't understand that in our culture, so much safety is built in, so much awareness is built into what we do that we don't just randomly take our kids out and hand them guns and, go plinking at each other, right? So we need to help them understand so that everybody has a good experience. We want people entering counseling or dentistry or primary care or pediatrics comfortable and confident that when they enter in there, they're not going to be looked upon as being weird just because they're in the gun community. And let's face it, like half of Americans either own a gun or live with one. So we can't afford to be willfully ignorant of this. And so in doing so, we want to make sure that the invitation to get care is appropriate and extended to everybody.
Yeah, so right now, if there's a big push, and I don't think I've ever actually run into this, and the reason I don't think I've run into it is because I would remember throwing a fit. People go to their doctor, and one of the questions they ask is, is there a gun in the home, and that
right.
Really, if we're being honest, what it does is it prompts the physician to decide if they want to have a conversation, and if they want to have a conversation, the conversation is. Guns are bad. It's not. It really, if we're all being really honest, and we boil this down, it was an opportunity for anti-gun folks to get the medical community involved in demonizing, guns, and
right.
and I really truly. I mean, like I said, is there some nuance? Could I have spent 45 minutes explaining it? Yeah, but if you really boil it down, that's what's going on. I don't think that's the role for the medical community. But what do you what is there a role for the medical community when it comes to firearms and gun crime, and if so, what do you think it is?
That's a loaded question, probably more time than we have allotted in this show. But
yeah.
But the nutshell is that this originated from the suicide prevention community, and everybody in the suicide prevention community thought, well, firearms are the most lethal way to take one's life. They're the most effective. Let's at least screen people for depression when they come in for care, and one of those questions will be about the gun, right? And then maybe we can have our physicians, our practitioners have a conversation about, well, if you're sort of depressed and you sort of have a gun in the home, then maybe you sort of shouldn't. And that's not how it's worked. How it's worked is it's just encumbered the clinical staff with yet another screening to do when they already have limited time to conduct whatever they're going to conduct in the office. So it's become cumbersome, it's awkward, it's clumsy, it's off-putting, and nobody's equipped to have that conversation anyway, because quite frankly, the incidence of somebody coming in suicidal to, say, a primary care visit when they're just getting their blood work done is infinitesimal. It just doesn't happen. So we've wasted a lot of people's time and money, but the suicide prevention community gets to talk about what they did. They did something, right? We did the zero suicide training with all the doctors in whatever area. So that's where it came from. But really, it's just a big waste. What we should be doing, in my estimation, instead of suicide prevention, and suicide prevention is good, and that's fine, but what we should be doing is getting farther upstream from that and teaching people how to conduct themselves in their lives appropriately so that they remain mentally well. And one of the things that I like to do is teach emotional functioning. So I have a whole video series on what your brain does in response to environment, what your 10 core emotions are. And if you can know that, you can respond better to the environment, you can improve your communication, and you don't slide into depression, anxiety, subsequently leading to possibly suicide. So we need to get upstream from it and stop with the ultimate most tragic outcome, which is self-death or death of others, just homicide, and start keeping people well early on. And if I may put a bow on this, one of the things I say frequently is I'm trying to work myself out of a job. And what I mean by that is when I do things like podcasts and radio shows and YouTube videos and all that, is I'm trying to disseminate the information in the community so that people stop coming through my door. Granted, it's a little bit of a paradoxical business model to say that, but I'd happily work any other job to pay my bills if it meant that I was living in a healthy, happy community where nobody needed my counseling.
So they just did a big study here in San Diego, and they spent a bunch of money, the county did, to get this totally slanted, biased organization to do a scientific study, which was so sloppily done, But anyway, what they found out, they did a study, was trying to prevent or reduce gun violence. And what they did is they studied, everybody that had died from a firearm over a certain period of time. They did a bunch of things, but when they looked at that, when they looked to see, all right, how someone who's died in a firearms involved, what does that look like? And they really found what we've been saying all along, what everybody kind of knows, is that it was like 70% were suicides and 30% were some other kind of homicide.
Right.
And then there was
that matches the national pie chart.
and there was a teeny tiny, I think it was like 29.9% and 69.9%. There was a teeny tiny fraction of like other, the homicide part. I talked to the guy that was doing this, and I said, well, what kind of homicides are we talking about? And then the suicide part, it was all about, well, how do we prevent someone who's suicidal from getting a tool, one of the many tools they could use to commit suicide? Not what you're suggesting, which is, why don't we solve the suicide problem? That seems like a bigger solution. It's not a Band-Aid. That's an actual solution. And the looks I got were, there was no suggestion from this organization to do that. It was all about, which is exactly what it was designed to be. It was all about trying to clamp down on gun owners and blame gun owners and vilify guns. And that type of thing it does no justice. It does no good for people who are going through some kind of mental health crisis. And it really it's not going to touch the numbers in a positive way like we'd hope. But
I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's not politically expedient to chase down root causes. The root cause may be broken home. It may be inability to tolerate distress. It may be alcoholism, and something much deeper. And nobody's running their campaign to raise money from their donors on, hey, stick with me for 20 years, I'll get this solved.
I'll get it solved, right?
Much more easy is let's control guns, right? Fund me. I'll go back and control the guns, and people are like, yeah, that'll stop.
Orange County Gun Owners is dedicated to preserving and restoring Orange County's self-defense rights. And if you live in Orange County and want to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, then you need to join ocgunowners.com/join. Orange County Gun Owners is the organization to help get more pro-Second Amendment officials elected. You need to become a member today. ocgunowners.com/join.
All right, we're talking to Jake from Walk the Talk America. And before we went to the break, we asked, let's talk about why should gun owners care about mental health and its relationship to firearms? Why should we care about suicide? Other than obviously the human aspect that, hey, we're all humans, we should all care about each other. But, why specifically should the gun owner community get involved, and why does it matter?
Because it improves everything you know about your life. And I'm not being glib or tongue in cheek when I say that. I'm not just, pumping this up because it's my profession. When I got into graduate school, I had a head full of ideas about a lot of things that were implanted over many years, and I was wrong about a lot of them. And I can tell you that what I learned through my education, my training, my experience is that I don't know everything, and being humble and holding loosely to my beliefs and ideas has made me a happier, healthier, more balanced person. And so when I say hold loosely to your beliefs and ideas, I don't mean don't have any. I mean be very, very, very well anchored, but be willing to change your mind. And one story that I'll share with you guys is a little vulnerable, and that's okay because I try to teach men to be vulnerable, and that's how we create intimacy. So that's a good thing. But before I met up with Mike and met all the guys, Walk Talk America, and went to all the conferences and trade shows and whatnot, I was one of those, gun rights, cool, but nobody really needs an AR-15 guys. And even though I owned one, I was like, nobody really needs an AR-15. And then I got into the community and I understood the difference between need and right. And it's weird because I've studied constitutional literature forever, all the way back to high school. I was in Nevada Boys State. I was a counselor. I was all about rights and seminal documents. But it never really clicked until I got into the community. And I really understood the culture of what the firearms community is about and the Second Amendment and our civil right to self-defense and to firearms ownership. So I allowed myself to change my mind on that. I moved off of the position of, nobody really needs an AR-15. We could probably have reasonable gun control laws, right? No, that's not right. So that's one example of how I've been able to harmonize my life and be happier and healthier and actually be a stronger voice and an advocate for many, many different things, not just this topic, because I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to learn something new, to say, well, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe my ideas about the world aren't all they're cracked up to be. Change my mind and grow. And I think that's why mental health is so important. It's not just about this psychological mumbo jumbo with a bunch of fancy terms and polysyllabic words. and people with letters after their names. It's about being able to change one's mind with confidence, knowing that you're going to connect better with human beings down the road. And one of those ways, I mentioned it earlier, is emotional functioning. A lot of men in the gun community, a lot of men broadly, are just like, I don't want to talk about my feelings. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm a dude. I talk about my feelings, and I teach feelings for a living, but I teach it in a very solid, practical, tangible way that connects this very important physiological function of what is emotion and how do you use it in a manner that makes sense, right? And through that, you get better relationships, your marriage improves, your parenting improves, your boss-employee relationships improve. You just become healthier overall. So that's why gun owners should care. And if I may put a cherry on top of this ice cream that I just dished out,
Sure.
If you're really proficient at your firearm, you want to be mentally balanced so that when you face a crisis, God forbid you ever do, you don't fight, flight, or freeze. You can turn on your logic brain and work through the deployment of that firearm in a concealed carry situation or a home defense situation. That's why this is so important. It's not just about my anxiety or my depression or my mood disorder. Yeah, those are all interesting and important things that may bring you into the office, but it's about day-to-day living. And that's what I say. I want to work myself out of a job. That's why I push this information to the public. I want people solving their own problems in their own kitchens and their own workspaces.
You know, it's interesting. Years ago, I was on local NBC, and we were having a debate over a couple of different gun things with somebody from the Brady organization. And in the green room before the show, I got to talking with them. And at one point, they actually indicated to me that guns were actually a cause of suicide. And I remember really kind of digging in there and going, wait, you're actually saying that guns cause suicide, that there are situations where a suicide would not have occurred if not or someone wouldn't have had suicidal thoughts had there not been had access to a firearm. And one of the things, which I think is ludicrous, but one of the things I talk about is there's a real good comparison with Japan. You know, Japan has a significantly higher percentage of people who commit suicide and have like no guns.
Right.
So what I want you to talk about is first off the comment that they made or what they were indicating that firearms somehow actually cause suicide, and then the comparison to Japan. Is that fair?
No, it's lunacy. Firearms do not cause anything. Firearm is an inanimate object and it just sits there. Now, are you more likely to reach for that in a moment of crisis because you know that it will end your life much more rapidly and more effectively than, say, the pills in the medicine cabinet? Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can have that discussion. But we can't have this discussion that it somehow causes suicide. That's absurd, and we have no empirical research to justify it. And look no further than Japan. Also, Connecticut, I believe, was the first state to implement a red flag law, and I think it was 2009. And Connecticut, thumps its chest very sternly, and as do a lot of these other states that have had red flag laws for a number of years. And say, look, our gun suicide rate has gone down. Yeah, cool. Well, what's your overall suicide rate done? Just like every other state in the nation, it's gone up, except for Nevada. Nevada held steady between 2020 and 2021, and we're very proud of that. We didn't go up or down. But every other state over the last 12 years has increased in its suicide rate, and that's because America as a whole has increased in its suicide rate. So all you did was squeeze the balloon, and you made air go from one area to another. You didn't actually address the problem. So addressing the problem is what we want to do. We want to have reasonable conversations about this that have nothing to do with the inanimate object by which you choose to take your life. If we're going to have that conversation, we need to talk about high places and sharp objects and ropes and all sorts of things, right? So that for me, that's a non-starter.
Yeah, our organization, this gun show, we're completely against gun violence restraining orders. I personally have seen them used predatorily, and it's a mess.
Yeah,
they're not good. That's just more evidence that we're right on that. But I want to talk about what you just said about Americans. There's an increase in suicide. What? Talk about that. Why? Why are we? We're the freest place on earth. We're the richest nation. Whatever. Blah blah blah. All these positives. Why are Americans committing suicide?
Well, I'm going to go into opinion land here and deviate from the literature for a moment, and I think that it's largely because we are so opulent. We've become bored, and we have to take up fights that don't need battle. So a lot of the cultural battles that you see these days that occupy news headlines, they're people who have so much free time and resources that they need to conquer something. They need a conquest. And Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot. And, in a country that's so rich in resources that we don't have anything really to fight for, what do? You make up fights, right? Now, if we peel that back just a little bit, there is some research now from Jonathan Haidt, Haidt.
Yeah, big fan. Big fan of his.
He's great. He's now starting to conclude, not just simply make correlations, but conclude that social media is the leading cause of teen mental illness in America. And so when I do talks about this with parents and school groups and so forth, I say, get your kids off social media. I don't care if they're already on. I don't care if you haven't started. No social media. And 4 or 5 years ago, I could have made an argument that there's maybe a reasonable plus minus there that balances out. I can't anymore. And the research proves that. So I think in addition to our opulence and becoming fat, dumb, and happy and not having any real, battles to fight as individuals or collectively, we also have multiple distractions that pull us away from our roots. So think back to when I said it's okay to have beliefs and opinions and be well anchored in them, but hold them loosely. I think largely we've gone unanchored, and now people are simply adrift, pinging off of each other and what grabs their attention in the next brightest, shiniest thing. And that's not good either, because if you're not anchored and you don't know who you are, you can have some real personality issues. You've got some real identity issues. And as these identity and personality issues fail to be anchored, what you end up becoming is a reflection of what looks cool. And so when that happens, you're left adrift in the metaphorical sea, and as the winds blow, your ship gets tossed back and forth.
2 minutes.
You don't know where you're going. You're very lost. You're very confused. It's very wet and stormy, and you have no anchor. And that is why people are taking themselves out of life. They're diving into drugs and alcohol. They're opting for alternate identities, all in a pursuit of something tangible that makes them anchored. And unfortunately, everything they reach for is fleeting. So I think that's why America's suicide rate continues to climb in spite of all of our decadence.
Everything they reach for is fleeting. That sentence right there is just about as so. Wow, that's really sad. It's a horrible thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, if you create something for yourself that you want to achieve, thinking that you're going to find happiness, being that you're the one who created it and it's no bigger than you, you've essentially made yourself God of your own world. Except once you arrive, there's something else beyond that yet to be discovered. So it's a never-ending cycle. And when I talk about happiness, which is one of our core 10 emotions, happiness is not to be pursued. Happiness is to be found in the moment. And moment by moment, you can find this. So instead of looking for an arrival point, what you want to do is just be grateful now and find reasons to be appreciative and give thanks. And that's what really floats people. It's not some destination. It's actually, it's the journey. And this is, there's a song lyric about that somewhere, I'm sure. But I think that's what we've lost. We've lost gratitude. We've lost appreciation. And, if we take this back to the firearms community, let's make sure that we're being grateful and appreciative and modeling this for our kids when we go out to the range or we take up another class or we roll our eyes at the CCW that I have to recertify for this Saturday to pay for my own right to carry. I can shift my focus and say, you know what? No, this is a good opportunity for me to be grateful that I do have the resources to own a firearm, the access to practice, the people around me to make me better, et cetera, instead of lamenting the, whatever it is, the cost of ammo.
You know what? You got to get your own radio show, dude. Hey, have you ever wanted to get a pilot's license? Well, you can do it here in San Diego. Pilots can fly almost every single day. And San Diego makes one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. You can learn how to fly with San Diego Flight Training International. You can check out this great deal. Just for Gun Owner Radio listeners, you can get 1 hour of ground school and 1 hour of flight with an instructor. Yep. You'll actually get to fly. Normally it's $400, but for you guys, $350. Getting started is super easy. Call them at 858-569-1822, or you can just go to Learn to Fly with STFTI. That's 858-569-1822.
Yeah, Dad, you and I were just kind of talking about like why everything's kind of falling apart. People are unhappy, and we were talking about how just the other day we were having a conversation. I was saying that nothing seems to be special anymore. That no one's accomplishing anything. People are frustrated. It's and our guest Jake said that we're all fat, dumb, and happy. And I don't know. What do you think, Dad? What percentage of the you told me the other day that you've been alive for what percentage of the United States history?
I'm 80. I was 82 2 days ago.
Yeah,
that's about 1/3 of the entire existence of the United States of America.
So what do you think the issue is in your 82 years? If you had to give a couple sentences,
I'm not much of a philosopher, so I'll kind of pass on that.
Yeah.
But he is a politician. Did you see that answer?
On Father's Day and after your 82nd birthday, what advice do you have for an 18-year-old going into the world today?
Well, I think I do look back a little bit. You kind of live for the moment instead of trying to cure the problems of the world and as it reflects on you. You enjoy the moment.
Right.
You enjoy the moment.
Well, I think an 18-year-old, if they don't know what they're doing, needs to go in the military for at least 2 years.
Well, I was 25 years in the Navy.
Yeah. So and probably before you went in the Navy, did you plan to stay 25?
No.
No. You just didn't really know what else you wanted to do. I didn't either. I went in, and it was like, whoa, talk about it's meant to cut all your hair off, man. It messes you all up.
Well, there's a Jake. There's actually Jake's still there. Jake, there's an organization in town. This guy, great guy, who runs it, and it's called Boys to Men. It was started a couple decades ago, and what they do is they go into schools and they say, okay, principal, show us the 4 or 5 kids or 2 or 3 kids that are causing all the problems, and they take those kids and they put them into this program. And it was interesting talking to them. 80-something% of these kids don't have a dad, and he's talking about, and they set them up with men who are mentors, and they do events where they have to accomplish something. To me, it actually kind of sounded like I was a Boy Scout. It kind of sounds like Boy Scouts, and really what it is it's this rite of passage that people have to go through. They have to accomplish things. They have to prove things to themselves and others. And, his track record of improving people's lives is amazing. And I think that's part of what you're describing when you're talking about how, what's gone wrong with society today.
Yeah, find some anchoring, right? Get a role model, get somebody who's walked a path ahead of you and can show you how to do it. And then honestly, what you're describing sounds a lot like our Kids to Kings program. It's not our program, but we partner with Kids to Kings, and Devin Perkins is the guy who leads that up. He's down in Georgia. And what he does, he goes into schools and he takes these inner city youth and teaches them gun safety and also well-being, not just mental, but physical and emotional and social well-being. He primarily focuses on black kids. Devin's a black guy, and he's in Atlanta, and that's what he's doing. He's pulling these kids largely fatherless and putting them through a program, and he integrates gun safety because in the inner city, there's lots of illegal, unsecured firearms, and he's teaching them how to avoid them, use them properly, know what to do when, confronted. Kevin Dixie, who's a good friend of ours too, he's now also in Georgia. He's originally from Missouri. He does a similar type of thing with dads, though. He focuses on the dads, and he pulls them in and teaches them, good fatherly behavior to get intimate with their kids. And I think that's what's lacking, honestly. It's intimacy. When we're staring at our screens, we're separated. When we're diving into our work and we don't have any good boundaries, we take our work home with us, we're separated. And we need to return to the nuclear unit of the family so that we can connect in a healthy way. And, it's not just, shaking our finger at our children anymore, but they're actually seeing us model what we want of them, which is consistency and good values and good boundaries and so forth.
You were talking about Jonathan Haidt, and I've really just loved his work for years. And for those who don't know, I've talked about him on the show. We actually tried to get him on the show, but I've talked about him on the show before. Where I first found him is he was a professor at NYU, and he was self-proclaimed left of center. He thought he was fairly left of center, and he started doing his research on why people make decisions or why they have the opinions they have, especially politically. And he came up with his 6 moral foundations theory. And San Diego County gun owners, Orange County gun owners, Inland Empire gun owners, our entire messaging is based on his research, which is I think it was groundbreaking research on how people communicate with each other. What's important to people and why they actually base their communications on, or what they base their opinions on, which is fascinating. I'm not going to give a whole lecture on what he found out, but that's how impactful it's been. Is political messaging ran with it. A lot of different messaging ran with it because he did such an amazing job. But then after that, he went in and did some research and he tried to figure out where the woke culture started and came from, and tracked it down. And I guess the reason I bring that up is I want people to know this isn't some far right-wing, guy with an agenda. I mean, this guy was self-proclaimed, way left of center, has done some really impactful research and work, and I'm glad you brought him up. Talk a little bit more about him and what he's found and what you like about him.
So the first thing I'll share is his Substack is just his name, jonathanhaidt.substack.com. You find all this research, and what's cool about it is it's open source. It's not open source meaning you can contribute to it, but it's all presented in like a Word doc, running Word doc, or spreadsheet, where you can see why he's done what he's done. And his colleagues, Greg Lukianoff at FIRE, which is a free speech institute, and Gene Twenge, who's written some books on Generation Me and iGeneration, and they're at the forefront of this stuff, and I'll just drop some knowledge real quick. So if anybody's familiar with statistical analysis or statistics, there's something called an R value that's a correlational value, meaning if two things are highly, highly correlated, like gravity to falling objects, you'd have a 1-to-1 correlation, it'd be 1.0. Something that's not very correlated, the number gets smaller. So less than 1, not negative, but less than 1. So, for example, somebody did a study on eating potatoes and mental illness, and the correlation is 0.01, so not correlated. And if you get into public health matters, when they start to launch public health campaigns, like say, I think eating extra calcium for postmenopausal women to boost their bone density and avoid osteoporosis or whatever it is. That's like a 0.08 correlation. So getting higher, right? And usually public health, they want it 0.05 or higher. All right. So when we're talking about teens and their connection to mental illness through social media, boys have a 0.09 to 0.11 correlation of exposure to social media and mental illness. Girls are double that. They're between 0.2 and 0.22. So we're like off the charts. There should be public messaging about keeping your kids off social media. Now, let me drive this point home real quick. The correlation to lead exposure in childhood and brain damage in adulthood is 0.09. So it's equal to or less than boys and half as much as girls, and yet we just hand our devices to boys and girls. Jeez. And this is what Haidt found in his research. It's scary,
so
right?
What's going on? Like what's happening on social media that's giving them mental health issues?
So not all social media are created equal. For boys, the reason it's a little lower is boys tend to be a little more resilient, a little more solve their problems and move on. Girls tend to linger. But separate and apart from that, boys' social media looks something like role-playing games, action games, Roblox, Minecraft, where there's an interactive component and a chat feature. Girls tend to draw more toward the image stuff, so like Tumblr and TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat. And within those realms, what happens is there's constant posting, there's feedback on the posts in the form of likes and comments, and you can hear him explain all this stuff. Look up Haidt on any podcast, and he explains it much better than I do.
2 minutes.
But what ends up happening is these girls get into a competition. And it's not enough just to turn the phone off and set it aside, because even though they set that aside, say, for school, their brains are still thinking about what they're missing. Boys don't tend to do that because they're playing games with other boys, they turn it off and they go to class and they're there and they're all there. So they're not really missing anything in the posting culture. So that's what's happening, not to mention the bullying and the targeting and the grooming. And I don't mean just like sexual grooming, but like advertisement grooming. People are trying to recruit your kids to buy stuff, and they do that through getting them to buy it through you, right? So there's lots and lots of pressures to keep up and catch up and compare and contrast. And ultimately what that does is it erodes self-confidence to the point that they just get full of anxiety and depression.
Wow.
And then it leads to identity disturbances and suicidal ideation and self-harm. So it's all very not good.
Well, this has been fascinating. I'm really glad we went into this. It was a little kind of maybe not exactly on topic, but how fascinating. It's great information. But let's circle back. Talk about Walk the Talk America. Where can people find more about Walk the Talk America, and how can people help?
WTTA, Walk the Talk America, WTTA.org is the website, and you go there, get a free and anonymous mental health screening. Well, everybody likes free, and most people like anonymity, so you get a free screening. That helps you check in on yourself. We also have a bunch of resources. We're building out a 50-state provider directory. I'll make a plug for my own agency, even though we're in Nevada. We got a lot of resources there. ZephyrWellness.org. You can find my emotional functioning video series on that, too.
Anybody wants to go to Ruth Chris with Mike and his dad, just give us a call. You got the money.
There you go. Absolutely.
And by the way, you're taking him to Ruth Chris.
Yeah.
And you send me to the Mongolian.
Oh, my gosh. Dave Stahl has the palate of a 5-year-old child.
Yes.
You can
Meat and taters. Meat and taters.
Gosh. We took him to a Himalayan place, Dad, which is basically Indian food, right?
Right.
We took him to this Himalayan place. You would think that we were just like shoveling raw fish guts into his mouth or something like
I
that.
didn't eat nothing. Did I eat anything?
No.
No, I didn't eat nothing.
It was delicious, by the way.
It was not either. Alicia even got sick.
I didn't even know. And then we tried to take him to the fish house that we went to last night, and he wouldn't go to the fish house. He wouldn't.
I told you, meat and taters. I'll go to Ruth Chris with you. Ruth. Anyway, Inland Empire gun owners strive to be the ounce of prevention in the fight for your gun rights. How do they do it? They do it by fundraising and getting local pro-gun candidates elected. Become a member today. Go to iegunowners.com/join and join the growing number of responsible gun owners stepping up to defend our Second Amendment. That's iegunowners.com/join. Yesterday, I was a judge at a professional barbecue competition.
Nice. How was it?
Ribs, tri-tip, chicken thighs.
How did I not get that invite?
Well, I'll.
Who was it?
It's up in Ramona, buddy of mine. And he lives like on a ranch. That it's got an old cowboy bar and it's got a cowboy grocery store. But he does it every year. And I got invited last year, and I was like, oh my goodness,
that sounds amazing. How was it?
It was good. Have you ever done competition judging for a barbecue?
No.
Yeah, they get a piece of paper and you get 6 thighs.
Yeah.
You have to judge the look. Then you take one bite. So,
yeah. Well, that sounds delicious. Thanks for rubbing that in.
Think nothing of it since you're going to Ruth Chris tonight. Which one you going to?
Del Mar's got the best view. It's got a better view than downtown.
Oh, you're not going to the downtown one?
No, I like the one in Del Mar. I like the one downtown.
I didn't even know there was one in Del Mar.
Yeah, it's right in the right off the 5. It looks right down a valley onto the ocean. Although it's a little overcast. I don't know if we're going to be able to see anything, but I like it. It's good. And they have steak.
Where are you staying? You staying?
I'm going to stop being a vegan for one day.
Staying in La Jolla? You're going to stop what? Where are you staying?
Down in San Diego.
Okay.
In this off the 94. It's this dome home. It's cool.
Oh, it's called.
What's it called, Dad?
It's a geodesic dome.
Geodesic dome.
Yeah.
I wanted one so bad I could taste it.
It's cool.
Hey, look, your dad's got an iPhone.
He's high tech. All right, subscribe and win. Subscribe to our email list and win some swag. This week's winner is, they didn't give their name. They just gave, it's DWN Fire Safety. DWN Fire Safety. If you are DWN Fire Safety, you are this week's winner. You're going to want to email prizes@gunownersradio.com to claim your T-shirt or hat. That's prizes@gunownersradio.com to claim your T-shirt or hat. Free training for members. The winner will be announced next Sunday. Members sign up at gunownersradio.com/training, the number 4 members. That's gunownersradio.com/training for members. That's the number 4. You could potentially win a basic pistol shooting course from San Diego Firearms. It's $140 value, which is very, very awesome. Our buddy Matthias Quallenberg, he presented at the CCW Lifestyle, or presented on the CCW Lifestyle at the symposium at the gun show. We're going to talk. We have some good news about the gun show, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we're definitely going to have another one here coming up. And there's some potentially good news.
Gun show like what we just had.
Like what we just had.
Yeah.
I believe it's going to be I'm not going to announce it now. We'll talk about it in the next segment. But the symposium, I thought, was a really big part of that. And I got to tell you, Rich, who's not here today, Rich, I hope you're out enjoying your Father's Day.
Yeah.
Rich is a fantastic father and a scholar. And
he's at Ruth Chris right now.
Yeah. And a good dude. Rich, you're a good dude, man. You really are doing outstanding work. But Rich is the reason the symposium happened, and I really believe that symposium
was a big success.
It was a huge success. It was an enormous add to the gun show.
I agree. I've actually had people reach out that went and told me about it.
Yeah, what'd they say? They said it was
good?
Awesome.
They said it was.
I presented. They talk about me specifically?
Yeah, they said,
No, they
all he
never
kept
do.
talking about was fish.
It was fish.
So, And I love geodesic domes. It used to be in Oregon is where they first were built.
Yeah.
And I even bought the kit, the whole bit. I wanted to build one in the worst way.
Is there like an advantage?
Yeah. Well, it's an advantage if you're in snow country, for one, because the snow can't sit on the roof. It falls off.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to have air conditioning and heating because of the design of the dome. It really
hot air rises.
It circulates. Oh yeah, and there's such cool floor plans. It's just hard to put curtains in.
It is cool. I really like it. It's literally cool.
How big is it?
And figured it's a
showed me a
3-bedroom. It's a 3-bedroom.
Okay, so
I don't know what the square footage is. Maybe,
but they're cool.
But,
I think they're just cool.
It's got a big master bedroom up top, and then it's got two identical downstairs. It's got a big kitchen. I like the open. It's a very open layout because it's
open
all
floor plan because there's no walls.
Yeah, it's no walls. So.
And when you build it yourself. They come in these geodesic, and then you bolt it together.
That's what he said, right? The guy on the remember I was telling you, he said he put it together with his own hands.
Yeah. Well, it comes, and then you have to hire somebody with a crane.
Yeah.
So,
Dad, you've been a gun owner pretty much your whole life, most of your life?
Pretty much, yeah. Since I was a young teenager.
Yeah. And you
but I grew up. Remember, I grew up in far northern Wisconsin, where nobody argued. Everybody, we'd go hunting. The kids would go hunting on the weekends.
Sure.
And, that's
hunting, fishing.
Yeah.
Hunting in Wisconsin is like it's just a part of the culture. Just do it.
What your guest said earlier about healthcare professionals being likely to be anti-gun,
yeah,
it's just not true now in northern Wisconsin, at least.
Right.
Yeah. No.
They all hunt. They all have guns.
They all hunt.
And it's just this insanity on the coasts that have just,
Do you remember the first gun you bought me?
Was it a 22 Mohawk?
No,
I don't.
It was 1986. I was 10 years old, and you got me the Red Ryder.
Oh,
BB
the Red.
gun.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Right after the movie came out.
Sure.
And I was telling people,
what movie?
The Christmas Story. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah. I know.
And I was, Mom, Dad, I'm begging, please, please.
Did they have to cut your stock off?
No.
See, they had to cut mine off. They had to cut about 2 inches off.
Because you were so tiny. I didn't have that
Yeah.
problem even back then.
Yeah.
So I was telling people, Dad, I don't know if you remember this, but I was telling people, there's the 4 rules, right? Treat every gun as if it's loaded, finger off the trigger, don't point a gun at anything you're not willing to destroy, know your target, what's beyond. I was telling people, back in the day in the 80s, there was one rule. It was treat every gun as if it's loaded.
That's right.
And you taught me that before I could walk, treat every gun as if it's loaded. And really, that rule kind of covers the other 3.
Right.
If you're treating a gun as if it's loaded, those other 3 just kind of happen. I'm glad. Listen, I'm glad they clarified. I like all 4. I think it's great. But when I was growing up, that's what you taught me: treat every gun as if it's loaded.
But that's the only one you really need to know.
If you do that,
then
you're not doing the other 3 wrong.
Right. Then Alec Baldwin wouldn't be in the trouble he's in.
Yeah.
Right. That's.
Seriously, when you stop and think about it,
So I have 3 kids, Mike being one, and all 3 of the kids are.
He said you were the only
have
one.
guns.
He said he was the only one.
No,
and your favorite.
That's
He
true.
used to be my favorite.
But not anymore.
1 minute.
Come on, he bought you a watch.
That's why I got to take him to Ruth's.
Yeah, right.
Buy him off.
Get him back on the good
He
side.
may be my favorite after Ruth's today.
Yeah, and a nice watch.
And a nice one.
What a
Hear
great
that,
Father's
Nancy?
Day.
I hope you're listening. Isn't that a cool watch? That's from me and Nancy.
An NEDU watch,
Yeah,
Yeah.
where I used to work.
Yeah.
Navy Experimental Diving Unit, which I spent 9 years there
Wow.
doing diving research.
Were you shocked when you seen it?
Yes.
So nobody leaked.
No.
No, look at how good that thing looks.
I know.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, you let him borrow it. Let him wear it.
No.
Wait a minute. Did you take his picture?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
On
He's up on the
Instagram?
Instagram. Yeah, immediately.
Okay, I've seen it.
I told.
But I didn't know who. You got to start putting who these people are.
It came a couple of days prior, and I opened it and looked at it, and it was like the freaking holy grail. I'm like, oh my god, this.
By
thing's
the way,
amazing.
he debated whether to open it or not.
No. I opened it, looked at it, and I told my sister, I was like, God, this thing's amazing. I sent her a picture. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I finally said, maybe he'll just get a card this year. But
And that is a true story. Hey, is there a better tool that empowers a woman to defend against an attacker that's 100 pounds?
no.
Bigger? Well, that's why it's so important for women to learn how to defend themselves with the most effective self-defense tool ever invented. For women, led by women, the Not Me program is designed to help with training, purchasing a gun, and getting a concealed carry permit. And guess what? It's free. To sign up, go to notmesd.org. That's notmesd.org.
So we're going to talk about the gun show. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. But before we do that, Dad, let's talk about your CCW. So,
Oh, yeah.
so you, I hope you don't mind. But tell me if there's some bit of information you know on the radio. Just let me know. But you live part time in Virginia.
I live in Virginia in the winter and in northern Wisconsin, where I grew up, in the summer.
In the summer.
Smart.
So, but you're officially a resident. You're a Virginia resident. That's where you're
Correct. So,
domiciled.
and I have a CCW in Virginia.
in Virginia. So he was trying to carry in Wisconsin, and
With a Virginia CCW?
Can't do it. There's no way. Wisconsin does not recognize Virginia in any way, nor, because I'm a Virginia resident,
Yeah.
there is no way I can get a Wisconsin permit.
Not even in northern Wisconsin?
No,
Or you
not
think-
even.
anywhere in Wisconsin.
However,
So here's what we had to do.
However, I can get a Minnesota concealed carry, which is valid in Wisconsin. No, it doesn't make any sense. So,
Well,
five-
yeah,
so-
it does.
what
when
did
it
you
comes-
what did you have to do to
So
get
5 years ago, I took the 8-hour training
Sure.
in Wisconsin,
Right.
which was able to cover Minnesota. Went over to Minnesota to the one of the sheriff's offices in Minnesota,
Right.
in Hastings, Minnesota. Got my no problems. I had the piece of paper from
Sure.
the class. Got my concealed carry, and that's perfectly fine in Wisconsin. And last Saturday, a week ago, I had to take the 5-year renewal
Yeah.
course. Same thing for
Which-
Minnesota.
Which there's no criticism of Wisconsin. I don't really know why they don't have reciprocity, but with Virginia, but it just doesn't make any sense. We're not helping anybody. You know what I mean? Like that process and procedure that you just went through. How many crimes do you think it's stopped? None. Zero.
Oh, no. It's not.
In fact, it maybe promotes crime because you had to drive there and you probably sped a little bit when you were there. Did you obey the speed
You
limit?
could have hit a
Not,
moose.
not anymore.
You could have hit a moose.
Could have hit a moose.
Well, that's true.
So one of the things we talked about, we're very, very proud of all the progress that San Diego's made with CCWs. And a lot of folks, before the Supreme Court decision, wouldn't have a CCW if not for the efforts of San Diego County gun owners. We talk about it all the time. We're very proud. It's one of our biggest accomplishments. And then even after the Bruin case happened and they got rid of good cause and everybody started applying, the process has improved so much thanks to us working with the Sheriff's Department, thanks to the fact that they were already issuing for years. We'd be really behind the 8 ball right now if not for what had already been built. And in the last year, about a year ago, we were happy to if they had issued 200 in a month, that was huge. 200 was a big month. And since the new sheriff took office, Kelly Martinez, since January, they've averaged over 700 new permits per month. Over 700. We went from 200 being a good month to over 700 a month. She's kept every promise she made. She's taken it very seriously. We're very, very happy with helping to get Kelly Martinez elected. So I talked about that at the gun show. Gave a seminar. Gave 2 seminars, one each day on how to get your CCW. Had a bunch of people show up. and just like we always do on those seminars, they're very popular. But one of the criticisms was of the gun show was that there just weren't enough guns, and the reason there weren't enough guns is because the city of San Diego, and specifically the San Diego PD, they have a licensing division, just like the sheriff's department does. So you had to go through the process, fill out paperwork to, say, hey, we're putting on this gun show. And the city attorney, Mara Elliot, her office actually stepped in and said, wait. First off, they don't like the fact that there's a gun show, right? So they went through with a fine-tooth comb to figure out how they could, do whatever they could do to stop it. Mm-hmm. So the way they did it is they said, hey, you know what? There's a law that says, there's a regulation that says you can only have one FFL per property, and that FFLs can't they can't conduct business off property. Now that's accurate. If you're a gun if you're an FFL, if you're a gun dealer, a federally licensed gun dealer, you can't go conduct business somewhere else. You can't go anyway. That's it's all over. That's a federal thing. It's not a state thing. You have to conduct business on your property. But what was the failure here? So basically they banned. They said you can't have any FFLs. They can't come and set up a table. Well, you kind of ask yourself, well, wait a minute. At Del Mar, they had a bunch of FFLs. What's the difference? So the failure in communication here was, these gun shops, they're coming with some of their wares, some of their guns. They're setting up, and they're advertising their shop. They're not actually selling the gun right then and there. They're saying, hey, this is what I sell. If you're interested, we could put this on hold, make an appointment, come down, and boom, buy the gun for whatever price they're offering. But the actual business isn't being conducted at the gun show. And so that doesn't mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that they haven't moved their FFL to the business address of the gun show. They're doing advertising. And that was a huge miscommunication, but I really think
But that's the way they can stop it.
That's where they try to stop it.
Right. Because if they throw something like that up, then everybody has to stop and do research.
They were trying to do everything they could to make
right.
everybody miserable.
Sure. Like if they said, well, yeah, but you can't have more than 5 people in the building because of this fire code. And
the one thing that I have to, and I think by the way, what's coming up is I think we've solved the problem. Because it really was just it had a lot to do with communication.
Well, the event went smooth as butter.
It was smooth as butter.
They had no issues.
Not a single issue.
Not one problem.
They never do these gun shows.
I know, but they were hoping.
But I always have to, the surprise on people's face sometimes, some people, when we point out the fact, look, no laws disappear just because you're at a gun show. The other side has done such a good PR job that it makes it sound like, a 12-year-old can go to the gun show and walk away with a fully automatic M60. It's just not.
But they say it all the time. I've never seen people lie blatantly as much as anti-gunners.
Right. They're the gun show loophole, right?
But they just, blatantly lie.
Well,
like as if you can't do a little background check on that and see what's really the truth, but they don't care. Once they've thrown that rotten tomato and it's smacked you in the forehead, well, guess what? It's on your forehead until you clean it off.
Right. Gun show, when they, gun show loophole. They're much better at messaging than
and everybody gets on board.
I've actually had arguments with producers. I'm going on to be on a radio show or a TV show, and I've talked to the producer, and they're telling me, oh, no, I'm wrong about these gun laws.
You don't know anything.
And I'm very polite, and I say, well, here, let me show you how this works. But if you go to a gun show, a gun shop, they have to follow all the laws. There's no – if you just kind of think it through, like if you're just talking to somebody, do you really think there's a law out there?
Or do you really think somebody could get away with what you're saying in this state?
Hey, all these laws apply to you, Mr. Gun Shop. But if you go to the parking lot of a Mason's Lodge, then all those laws disappear. Right. We're carving out an exception.
And you can sell every gun you have in the store. It
doesn't even make any sense. If you just think it through, it doesn't make any sense. So I actually went to the top. I went to the police chief, Dave Neeslet, police chief for San Diego PD, and just explained myself. Here's what's going on. You're as high as it gets, in this organization here. If it makes sense, let's see what we can do about moving forward. Let me just explain, what's going on. And it seems to make sense, and it looks like we're going to be able to move forward, which means that you are going to be able to have guns at the gun show again. Isn't that amazing? But again, and in California, the laws are a little bit more stringent. But at the gun show, you have to go through an FFL. Any transfer, if Dad and I are, actually that's not true. My dad and I, that's a different procedure. But if you and I were going to sell each other a gun,
right,
we'd have to go through a gun show.
Got to go through an FFL.
Background check, 10-day wait period. You have to, illegally, you have to go through a background check, whether it's at a gun show, whether it's in our backyard, whether it's here at the studio, whatever it is. And that all happens at the gun show.
Well, my wife's cousin bought that Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
Private party.
Yeah.
Had to go through an FFL.
Well, the 500?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna? We gotta post. Are they done with that thing?
Yeah.
Yet?
Oh my God.
We gotta post pictures of how good that thing.
No, what I need to do is I already talked to him. Is take you to the range, let you shoot it.
Well, guns scare me. I've actually never shot a 500. That's like, you might as well. It's like a bazooka.
It's a cannon.
That thing's awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so shoot it.
Look for. I think probably in about the next 60 to 90 days there will be an announcement. There will be another gun show, and it's looking like our work with the city and specifically the SDPD, and more specifically the chief, who's been awesome. I think that you're going to see a much improved gun show. So everybody out there's a bunch of grumpy grumps out there that's just like, it's not perfect. Okay, help us out.
Yeah,
we're trying
to,
you know what I mean? We're doing something. We're trying to do something good, and we're taking steps forward. So help us out. Come to the next gun show. You're going to have a blast. There's going to be a lot more guns. I'm going to make sure of it. We're doing good work. And if you haven't become a member of San Diego County Gun Owners, because that's the kind of work we do. It's not sexy. It's not dying on a hill. It's the kind of working through bureaucracy that needs to happen. So that's good stuff. So when we get back on the next segment, I want to talk a little bit more about Mara Elliott and talk about something that's going on in her office and some local politics. And then we got a couple other things going on. So stay tuned.
All right, a lot of companies waste an enormous amount of money and marketing, and the design is excellent. The photos are great. Your website looks great, but it's just not getting any customers. Why? Because you don't have the words that make people buy. But now you can fix that with Sage Tree. Sage Tree can help you find the words that make it easy for your customers to understand what you do and how to buy from you. Stop wasting money today and schedule a call. Getting started is easy. Just visit sagetree.com, click on the schedule an appointment button. That's sagetree.com, and click on the schedule a call button.
So we actually have a couple of things to talk about. The first thing that we haven't mentioned yet is, there's a special election. Nathan Fletcher, everybody's favorite, stepped down. He is gone. He is in our political rearview mirror. And I got to tell you, I hope he never comes back. He was such a bad guy. He was such a bad guy for so many years. I know Democrats that are happy that he's gone, and let alone every Republican in San Diego. So it's a good thing. Nathan's gone. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Beat it. Don't let the door hit you. No. So that means there's going to be an election, Dave. Did you know that?
Yes, indeedy. Who's running?
So there are a number of people running, but I think the top three are Janessa. I just forgot her last name. Janessa Goldberg?
Okay.
Goldblatt?
I think it's Goldblatt.
Goldblatt? I'm sorry, Janessa. I'm truly not trying to butcher your name. She's running. She's a Democrat. There's Monica Montgomery Stepp. She's the city council member in I forget which district, but I think it's District 4 in San Diego.
And she's
a Democrat. I think she's probably the most likely to get. I think she actually just got endorsed by the Democratic Party, so she's the endorsed Democrat. And then there's Amy Reichert, who of course ran. She was a part of Open San Diego with the whole COVID situation, and she ran last time when they redrew the district. She ended up in the District 4. She ran, and she is running again.
She's a Republican.
She is the endorsed Republican. She just got endorsed on Monday night, Monday night by the Republican Party. She got one other endorsement before the Republican Party even. Sunday night, the San Diego County Gun Owners Board met. She attended the meeting via Zoom, and San Diego County Gun Owners has endorsed Amy Reichert for District 4 for County Board of Supervisors. If you go on our website under the election section, you can find we have a flyer there. We have an announcement. And then at our tabletops, we've been passing out flyers to help her get elected. So please go to Amy Reichert's website. Make sure that you help her. This is a special election. So there are no other elections. You can just focus on her election. She needs people to walk. She needs people to call. Reform San Diego's doing a bunch. We of course
some money.
There are a couple of bucks. If everybody gives a couple of bucks, no one has to give a bunch. But anyway, congratulations, Amy, on your endorsement. There you go. Tell your friends. Now, the only people who can vote for Amy are people that live in District 4 in the county, which is like a fifth of the county. It's a weird gerrymandered district. Part of it's downtown. Part of it goes all the way out to La Mesa. I know it's weird. Kind of goes up and down Mission Valley, but kind of not.
Did Fletcher do that?
Well, no. Well, in part. Everybody got together, and every 10 years they get together and they redraw the districts, and there's this big fight.
Why do they do that?
It's in the Constitution. They have to.
They
have to. So, in the California Constitution.
That doesn't make it right.
Who cares about that one?
Yeah, that doesn't make it right.
I like how the look on your face. Well, the Constitution. No, California Constitution. Oh, who cares?
Yeah, come on.
That old thing?
That's not even a Constitution.
So they redraw the districts every 10 years, and it's this big fight between blue and red. And everybody tries to stack all the Democrats try to stack all the Republicans in one district.
Sure.
And the Democrats try to stack Republicans try to stack all the Democrats in one district. So it's always a big fight. I don't know how I feel about it. I get the reasoning. I think a lot of people think that it's a little bit more. I don't know.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Since you kind of move around a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you going to move to the 4th District to vote?
It's a good question. I have to re-register.
Well, you're almost registered in every county, right?
To do that? I don't know.
But it's a thought. Something to think about.
It is a thought. I'll have to think about that. I'm trying to think if I'm. Nah, I don't know.
That's just what you need
I get
another complication in your life.
Good question.
Now I have to find a house in La Mesa.
But Monica Montgomery Stepp is actually on the city council. She has a huge advantage. This is going to be an uphill battle for Amy. Because Monica's entire district, her entire city council district, is in the county district. And she got like 70% of her district to vote for her.
Ooh.
And I forget the percentage, so I don't want to mess it up. But her city council district is a significant portion of the county district. So if you're sitting there thinking, hey, somebody else will do something, I don't have to, you're wrong.
No.
And if you think, hey, I got to live in District 4 to help Amy, you're wrong. You don't have to.
Oh, I thought you had to live in it.
To vote, but to help her, anybody can show up and help her. You can donate, you can show up, you can help, you can do all kinds of things. Another push, by the way, real quick, Reform San Diego is doing a lot. So if you are a part of Reform San Diego, they're kind of heading up the effort with Amy Reichert.
Carl DeMaio.
Yeah, Carl's doing a really, really great job on that. So
he's been tripping into KUSI pretty regularly lately.
Carl has?
Not as bad as you.
He's just the best. I got to tell you, when it comes to moving and shaking and doing in politics, I can't think anybody better.
It's so funny that he's not running for anything.
Yeah, he
stays back in the back
and
keeps loading the cannon.
He just keeps loading the cannon and helps a bunch of people. That is a good.
You can write that down. Write that
down. He's helping a bunch of people get elected. Yeah. he does a great job. He's got a great platform on the radio there. And,
got an awesome one.
So one thing I want to talk about too is Mara Elliot. I just heard through the grapevine,
good source,
from a source, that their gun violence restraining order division, they moved it from the criminal division to the civil division. Now, what does that mean? Well, so the city attorney, her real job is to be the attorney for the city council. That's actually her job. But there are some prosecutorial duties that she gets. Yeah. Specifically misdemeanors, felonies usually go to the DA. If you get busted by like TSA or the I should say at the airport, that all goes through the city attorney. But really, her job is to be the city's attorney, not be a prosecutor. But they have a criminal division, they have a prosecution division, and that's where they put the gun violence restraining order folks, is in the criminal division. And they've actually moved them. Now, I don't know if they've been forced to move them or if they just moved them and saw the writing on the wall, but moved it over to the civil division. Now, the difference between criminal and civil has to do with, am I committing a crime or is it that two people have a disagreement? It's actually a really good. That was a good explanation, Dad.
That's a good one.
What did you
Yes.
say?
Yes, it was.
So
Yes.
yeah. So are you committing a crime against the state? That's criminal, or is there a disagreement between two people? That's civil.
Right.
Now, if you think about a gun violence restraining order, that should be civil. That is a civil thing, right? That's not. That's me. That's someone saying, "Hey, this person is whatever, dangerous," that sort of thing. But instead, they parked it in the criminal division, and they got heavily criticized for that. Now, this is down in the weeds kind of stuff, but it really truly shows, I think it shows, number one, her incompetence. I don't think she's good at her job. And number two, it shows her intentions. Her intention was to use this thing, use the gun violence restraining order against people. Her intention was to take it and use it as a tool in a criminal way, not in a way of like, hey, we need to help or stop or whatever, not in the way that gun violence restraining orders were intended to be used.
Okay, so when she refused to take Fletcher's gun,
Well, yeah.
would that have anything to do with where they moved it?
No, I don't think they're related, but still, I mean, if there was ever a piece of evidence that proved what we're saying is accurate and that this thing is wildly inappropriate and being used inappropriately, it's when we said, all right, great. Where's your gun violence restraining order for your buddy Nathan Fletcher?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Oh, I can't do that.
Nothing.
I can't do that.
Not a whisper, not a word. I heard from I sent that letter to Mara Elliott, the city attorney.
No response.
I sent it to the chief of police for San Diego, Dave Neeslet. He responded.
Yeah.
Had a great conversation with him. Sent it to Summer Steffen, the district attorney. Responded. Fantastic conversation.
Good conversation.
Sent it to the sheriff, Kelly Martinez. Fantastic conversation.
Well, send it to her again. Say maybe you missed it.
Hey, did you get this?
Did you get this?
So, well, I'm sorry. I kind of misspoke. Mara did respond, but it was a bunch of gobbledygook, and
she did respond.
Yeah, and it wasn't really directly related.
It wasn't related to this question.
Yeah, it was this kind of this sidestep, malarkey. I'm pretty sure we posted.
No. They call that politics.
Politics?
Yeah, they call that politics.
So again, this is nuanced. So I don't know how much we're going to do with this. I don't know if we're going to be on KUSI. I don't know if we're going to, go on Carl Show or whatever.
That's your call right there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I don't know if it's enough to talk about. Like, hey, look, she moved this from the criminal to the civil division. But the other thing is, I'm not sure this is going to make things better. Honestly, in that she still has that mentality of using it against people, not using it for a cause or for the but so she's still going to use it against people. And the attorneys in the civil department tend to be
2 minutes,
a lot more political, a lot more anti-gun.
So you're just going to be the fly in the ointment, basically.
Well, I don't know, but
I mean, nothing wrong with that.
But there is a lot of ointment to be a fly in.
Yeah, and Carl, he's a honking fly. I mean, that guy, he's
like a June bug in the
He is like a big old June bug.
Anyway, wanted to let everybody know that's something we're continuing to look at, something we're continuing to talk about. I like to think that we actually had an influence, and by pointing out that this should not be in criminal and should be in civil.
Yeah, of course you do.
I like to think that that's one of the reasons that she was forced to do it. But again, I think this really shows the incompetence. She should be nowhere near power.
Well, you can say that about a lot of people.
Well, it's unfortunate, but she should be nowhere near power. Yeah. Certainly not have the power that she has, like the city attorney. So, All right, so Pop, you're gonna ask your the next segment here. You're gonna ask your grandson. You're gonna try to stump my nephew, which is your grandson.
Now, do we
1 minute?
change the title of this to the Stump My Grandson?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
that.
you can tame that.
All right, so next we're gonna have stump his grandson.
Yeah, stump his grandson. We don't need to get any older.
There you
You
go.
and I.
You want to do the answer too when he cues you? You can do the answer.
Watch
Certainly.
this.
All right.
The answer.
The answer. Hey, gun prom tickets are on sale. Holy mackerel, they're almost sold out, so you better get on the schedule.
Well, they're not almost sold out, but we need you to come. It's in September.
Hey, are you doing this commercial? Or
Oh,
am I
I'm
doing
sorry.
this
Go ahead.
commercial?
They're almost sold out.
Yeah. Well, that gets people off the stick and start doing it.
You're right.
Because it's the best party.
It's my first day here.
It's the best party in town.
It is the best part. I can't tell you how many people, elected officials,
Yes.
people. I can't tell you how many people say, I go to. This is the only party I go. This is the only one of these
I know.
things I go to every year.
I'm already getting phone calls. You gonna buy a table? You gonna buy a table? You gonna buy a table? I said, are you gonna
Well,
buy a chair?
That's just me.
I said, are you gonna buy a chair? But no, I mean, and now I got people wanting to come, and I got more people than I have money.
The best thing to do if you're listening out there is find 7 other people, and the 8 of you buy one of these, especially like a wine table, and you're gonna have a really good time. And you could win a gun. There's all kinds of cool stuff happening.
Yeah, no, it's the most fun you'll have in a long time.
Yep. Go to gunprom.com.
Yeah, that's just, we don't even need to say anymore. Once you get there, the raffle prizes, the food, the entertainment.
There's always like an energy in the air. Too,
There
isn't
is. It's
always
the
like a
darndest
buzz.
thing. Yeah, it's really amazing. All right. So,
What are we doing here?
Sam, are you there?
Wait a minute. Yep. Time
Oh.
for everybody's favorite segment. This, of course, this week changed to what is it called, Dad?
Stump My Grandson.
Stump his grandson. So if you write in and have a gun trivia question and we use it on the air, we will give you a hat or a shirt. And if you stump my dad's grandson, if you stump Sam the gunman, then you get a special prize. Probably be tickets to gun prom. But we'll see. So all right, ready? Go
Oh,
ahead.
wait. Let's see if he's even here.
All right.
Sam, are you here?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Just fine.
We're good, Sam.
Do you know your grandfather was out here?
Yeah, I've been watching the whole show. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
That'd be Happy Grandfather's Day, which would be helpful.
And Grandfather's Day.
Hey, did you see his watch?
No, I didn't see the watch.
You need to put it up to the camera. Yeah, right there.
Well, I'm not watching it right now.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
on my
Sorry
phone
about
right
that.
now.
All right. Well, he's going to ask the questions, so let's see what happens.
Okay, the question is from Pete from Oceanside. And the question is, what nipple-inspired cartridge was popular during the Civil War?
Pete from Oceanside, thanks for writing in. Little bit of a weird way to word that, but what I believe he's talking about, I can think of 2 possible things he might be talking about. One is the idea of the percussion cap, and the terminology does match because the percussion cap, it's basically a primer separate from a cartridge, and it goes on an object called the nipple on the firearm, which has a flash hole in it so that the percussion cap can ignite the powder charge. He might also be talking about the pin fire system, but I don't believe that's what he's talking about there in the question, because again, with the terminology on a percussion cap gun like a Colt Single Action Army, you do have a nipple that the percussion cap goes on.
How we do? Do we get close,
Okay.
Dad?
Here's the answer from Pete. The answer is the Moore Caliber 32 Titfire used a unique cartridge to get around the patent owned by Smith & Wesson and was very popular during the Civil War for both soldiers and civilians. The Titfire cartridges did not have a rim at the back like conventional cartridges, but were rounded at the rear with a small tit that would protrude through a tiny opening in the rear of the cylinder. The primer was contained in the tit, and when the hammer struck it, the cartridge would fire. In concept, it was similar to a rimfire cartridge, but instead of having priming all the way around the edge of the rim, it is centrally located in the tit. National Arms produced about 30,000 of the revolvers from 1864 to 1870 when it was acquired by Colt's Manufacturing Company.
Okay, well, Pete, you completely got me there. That's not something I was familiar with at all. Good one.
All right, Pete, you stumped his grandson.
That's right. And
on Father's Day.
Yeah, and didn't you say Civil War was not your forte?
I have said that before, yeah. So I think people are kind of figuring out how to get me.
If only there were some Civil War resources around that you could maybe go visit and take a look at them.
Doesn't he live
I know
in
that's
a
a dig.
state that has all that stuff?
Excellent job, even though you got it wrong. I don't remember. This is the first time. When's the last time you got stumped?
A long time. It's all your fault.
My fault.
Last one we called it a draw, and there have been ones where I've been stumped within the past few months, but this is one where even after hearing the answer, I've got no idea what he's talking about. That was a good one.
But I have to say, I was convinced that you were right.
It sounded good to me.
Well, because what you said made perfectly good sense. I mean, it kind of went that way, but what do I know?
All right, so let's talk about you got a blog in the hopper?
Yeah, my most recent blog post that's up right now is another check out this gun blog post, because a couple weeks ago, the question had to do with Turkish Mausers, and I happen to own a Turkish Mauser. So I took some photographs of it, and I did a brief write-up about the history of Mauser bolt-action rifles in service in the Ottoman Empire in World War I. So if that sounds like something that doesn't completely put you to sleep just hearing about it, then you guys can go up and read that on the SDCGO blog or the blogs of the sister organizations.
Way to sell it, Sam. I like it.
Well,
way to sell it.
I get that military surplus collecting firearms. I get that
Turkish Mausers,
a dry topic for some people.
Turkish Mausers is not everybody's cup of tea. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, it's not the latest, coolest Mossberg 940 JM Pro or whatever. But if you're into that, then you're really into it.
You're really into it.
It's cool stuff. There's a lot of history there.
Hey, Pop, do you read your grandson's blogs?
I do.
Yeah, and you watch them on TV. You watch them on YouTube.
On YouTube, I watch this show on YouTube every Sunday.
Yeah. What do you think of your grandson and all his trivia knowledge here?
Well, I'm very impressed.
You and everybody else.
Everybody.
Well, he takes after you, Dad.
Thank you.
I remember. You remember when Trivia Pursuit came out in the '80s?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. You needed Dad. Dad
smoked it?
He just cleaned up. There was It wasn't even a contest.
Do you like those types of games?
Not anymore.
Oh,
Sorry.
I remember one time I was watching. I don't know if you grew up in the '80s and you grew up on MTV. They had a show called Remote Control, and it was a trivia show, and it was a bunch of stupid, music trivia. But then every once in a while, almost like as a comedic thing, they'd have a real question, a real trivia question. It was really hard. And mom and dad, you guys were going out to dinner, and you're walking by, and I'm watching Remote Control, and the real hard question, the actual trivia question, was what's the medical term for? It was either what's the medical term for droopy eyelids, or they said the medical term for droopy eyelids, and you on your way out the door got it right. So do you remember what it is? Do you know what it is now?
I don't remember that.
Oh well,
he's very impressionable.
Put you on the spot there. Anyway, so the trivia thing is genetic. I think it's skipped at least a generation, but it.
You think?
But
that does happen.
Sam comes by it genetically.
Yeah, very much so.
But he works hard too.
Yeah,
he works hard too. But you put in the hours, and I appreciate you. All right, cool. So, all right, good. Well, thanks. I'll check out your Turkish Mauser blog. And good job on the question. Sorry you didn't get it right. There's always next week.
Well, don't say good job if I didn't get it right, but
I enjoyed
much for having me on.
I enjoyed
but
the
answer was amazing. I don't even, no offense, I don't care whether you get it right or not. I just like to hear your answer.
Well,
because you learned something from the answer.
I was going to say what he said isn't inaccurate. He gave accurate information. It just wasn't the answer to the question.
It just wasn't the same subject matter.
Good job.
And you remember, Sam, what my favorite gun is? I never can remember. It's a .45 caliber the tankers used
M3 grease gun.
So I'm watching The Dirty Dozen the other day.
Oh yeah.
Almost every one of them running around the castle had that gun.
Had a grease gun?
I just had to say that.
Dad, you have a World War II or Korea 1911?
World War II, authentic World War II.
Really?
Remington
1911.
Rand, right? Is that what it is?
It's yes.
Put you on the spot. I think it's a Remington Rand 45.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, which you
'Cause
acquired.
I've got an inland 30 caliber M1 carbine.
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
I used to play with that when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Well, in the neighborhood when we played Army, well, I had my uncle's M1, and that's what I used.
And what's your connection to the M1 M1 carbine?
Well, no direct connection, but I have a cousin who helped solve the production problems during World War II.
Wow.
That's a whole long story.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you back out.
with the rotating bolt, right?
Well, the
M1
gun,
carbine?
the tolerances were such that it had the unfortunate habit sometimes of the bolt flying back into the shooter's face, which discouraged good marksmanship
I would say.
a bit. And my cousin had a factory, like so many factories that did subcontracting for things. And his engineers said, "We do that kind of precision every day." They were making juice dispensers for cafeterias. During World War II, that was
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
nobody cared.
Yeah, right.
They
No
made
kidding.
gun parts.
So he solved it.
They
And
solved
it
it.
was
2 minutes.
What was his name?
Al Dalkin.
Al Dalkin.
How about see
Yeah,
that?
rest
could
in
have been a
peace, Al.
trivia question.
Well, he knows.
He knows.
He's
He knows the answer to that.
because it's his family too. Anyway, that would have been a bad trivia question.
Yeah,
You
I
would
think
definitely
so.
got it right.
Yeah. Hey, anything to help. All right, buddy. Always
Sam.
good having you call in, and we will talk to you next week.
Well, as always, thanks for having me on, and thank you everyone for listening.
You got it, buddy.
Thanks for watching this episode from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns and the Second Amendment. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just do a search for Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Don't forget to support our sponsors. Click on the links in the show notes and support the businesses that support your Second Amendment rights. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.